Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you know that from the thumbnail to this video, this is my response video to the larger spread I do earlier in the week. Yes, I do a large spread earlier in the week, and then I do a smaller spread to try to distill or extract a more crystalline, a more condensed bit of information, advice, understanding from the larger spread. And that's what I'm doing here. So I am nearing the end of my year-long deep dive into the Lenormand system. Yes, so I've done my large Lenormand spread. It's a, I call it a star spread. It uses 13 cards, so there are a lot of interacting pieces to that spread. And we got a pretty clear message, I think, a pretty clear understanding of how things are going for us these days. But still, I want to get, like I said, a more crystalline, a more distilled understanding. What can we extract from that larger spread? So, in this lunar cycle, I've decided to continue using my tarot deck that was published by the same people who published the Lenormand deck that I'm using for this lunar cycle. And I'll show you all of that in just a moment. But let's talk about a couple of things first. Because this is a response spread, I highly recommend that you go back and watch the video for the Lenormand spread that I put up a couple of days ago. Yeah, so I'll put a card up here, so just in case you haven't seen it, you can click on this card, you can jump on over and take a look at that video first. Yeah, now maybe you've already done that. Maybe you've already seen that video and it's been a few days, you watched it in bits and pieces, you're perfectly allowed to watch these videos in bits and pieces. That's okay. So maybe you just want a quick reminder, what was it that you saw? Now the central card again this week, twice in a row was maturity. The lily card. Yeah, the lily card for us, I think, was not sexuality, but rather maturity, standing up, standing tall. And actually, that was the title of the video, Stand Up. Like the lily, and like the tower beneath it. Because there are things around us that are not all that easy for us to navigate. The people in our lives are not all going to be easy to interact with. Yeah, some of them are going to be challenging. Some of them are going to be confusing, according to the spread, if you remember. We have a fairly good, I think, stable foundation, but the things around it, there are things in the past that are ending. There are people who are obstacles. There are people who are confusing in our lives. And so we are called to stand up and stand tall, I think. And let's see if this week's second spread is going to confirm that or deny it, or add another layer of information to it. So, I'm going to show you this week's spread in just a moment, but before I do, I want to say thank you. Thank you for doing all those things you do. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up button. Thank you for subscribing to the channel, which I think you've already done. Because those actions you do help our community to grow. And so you are a blessing to all of us. And also, those of you who comment, you are wonderful people too. Thank you very much. I find each one of your comments to be a blessing. And so thank you for doing that. Yes? Okay, friends. So, what do we do? First, I will show you this week's spread. I will tell you about the decks we're using and what the spread, what kind of spread it is. And then we will break the spread into its two major component parts and read that spread, those parts together. Okay, friends. I have to stand tall too. So, friends, here is this week's spread right now. I'm so glad I've decided to use these cards together for this entire lunar cycle. I hope you're enjoying them as much as I am, because I think they're great decks. On the top you saw 3 cards. They are tarot cards, and you might not know that, but they are tarot cards, and they're from a deck called the Tildwick Tarot. And there will be a link in the description box below. They have printed their 10th anniversary edition of the deck, and I think it's still on sale, so you can get it there. Beautiful deck. 100% honesty, it's a little difficult to read the titles. It's easier to read the titles if you take a picture of them, just saying. So sometimes I use my camera when I read with this deck, just cause. Especially the court cards are a little bit challenging to read unless you've either memorized the cards or you've taken a picture of the title, because especially the king and the knight, it's because of the design, it's a little difficult for me to distinguish the letters for the titles. But gorgeous deck. And it's in a it's called it's a 3-card spread. Yeah, it's a positional spread. The first card is the significant answer to the question, what is the central message of this week's Lenormand Spread? The second card is the challenge, which could be a positive challenge, something we're striving for, something we want to aim for, or a negative challenge, an obstacle, something standing in our way, kind of like that mountain in the Lenormand Spread this week. And then the third card is advice, which needs no explanation, I don't think. And then we saw the 3 cards. Actually, there were 6 cards below. You may already know this. These 6 cards are from a deck called the Mystic, Augur, and Sage by Kelly Burton, the same creator of the Sacred Bee Oracle and Tarots. Yeah, the Journey of the Sacred Bee Tarot, the Keeper of the Sacred Bee Tarot, and the Wisdom of the Bee Oracle. Yeah. Beautiful decks, love the decks. This is the same creator, love this deck. Now, she includes 3 cards, the Mystic, the Augur, and the Sage. The intent is for those 3 cards, which have no real, they have a sigil on them and text, but except for that, there's not much of an image on those cards. And so I decided, because there are only those 3 cards, that I would use those 3 cards as a spread. And so you saw, what you saw, whether you knew it or not, was below the 2 of Swords was the Mystic card and then the response to that position. Below the 3 of Coins was the Augur card and then the response to that position on top. And then below the 10 of Wands was the Sage card and then the response to that position. So we will use those 6 cards to modify the 3 cards above individually. And if you've been with me as I read this spread the last couple of weeks, you'll know what I mean. If not, just stay tuned, you'll figure it out. Yes, it's not that complicated. So friends, let me show you the 3 tarot cards once more, and let's read those together. Here they are. The 3 cards we got from the tarot for significance challenge advice, were the 2 of Swords, the 3 of Coins, and the 10 of Wands. Yes? So, no court cards, no major arcana. It was interesting that the numbers are increasing. It was interesting that we have, of the 4 suits, we have 3, right? We have air, earth, and fire. The only thing we're missing is water. One of them was going to have to be missing because I only laid a 3-card spread. So either emotionally we are repressed, or we're having some emotional challenges, or the emotions are not necessarily a big player in this spread. One of those 2. The Two of Swords has come up for us from this deck recently, I think 2 weeks ago. So that's something else to keep in mind. It was in the same position. No, it was in the center position. It was the challenge then. But this is the significant answer to this week's Lenormand Spread. What is the central message? The central message is this card, which is the Two of Swords. Lovely card. You see the bird there. You see the cage. The bird is out of the cage, but the bird is not gone. Nor is it in. Nor is it completely out. I mean, it's out, but it's not away. It's there in this liminal space, right? In the house, on the cage, but not flying free, but not inside. Which I think is an interesting representation of the Two of Swords, which is what? It's the card of difficult choices. How could this be a difficult choice? You would think, oh, the bird wants to be free, should just fly away. But this bird is not flying away. Why? Well, maybe because the bird also knows that they have an abundance of food and water when they're inside the cage. Now they're provided for. So, do they have a comfortable life of being provided for but restricted? Or free and open to able to go anywhere they want to go and know that life could be hard out there, harder out there with their freedom. So freedom or safety, security. Now that could be a catch-22, which is another meaning of the Two of Swords card, right? Catch-22s, stalemates, avoidance of making a choice. Yeah, this bird has not really completely made a choice. Do I go in? Do I go away? It hasn't made the choice yet, right? Weighing up their options. Maybe they're still thinking about it. So for our maturity, we want to recognize that maybe we still have not made the decisions, which could be the reason why the thing from the past that has been taking a long time to end has not ended yet, because we have not made the choice yet. Yes? Maybe we're still weighing up options. And so maybe part of that maturity is the maturity of making a choice. Right? Now, because we do not have any astrology printed on the card, and I wanted to reactivate my use of astrology with tarot in the way that I learned it first and prefer it to the Golden Dawn's associations. And I'm sorry if you are a 100% Golden Dawn ride or die, you might not be happy with what I'm about to do. So, fair warning, yeah? For me, I do not read the Chaldean system, which was selected. It's not the only system out there. Was selected by the Golden Dawn when they associated cards to astrology. There are other systems out there. Yeah, there's a whole Indian tradition of Vedic tradition. There's a whole tradition of reading the decans with the reading traditional astrological associations of the decans with triplicity. Which means what? Which means I only use the 7 visible lights in the sky, which are the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Those are the 7 lights in the sky that that have domiciles in the 12 zodiacal positions. And each one of those decans, each one of those zodiacal positions has 30 degrees. And those 30 degrees are split up into 3 decans. So for me, the Two of Swords, which would be in cardinal air, which would be Libra, right? So cardinal, the first three cards are cardinal. The second three cards are fixed. The third three cards are mutable for each one of the signs. And then there's the 10th card, which is the culmination. It has all of it together. Okay? So the first three cards are associated with the cardinal zodiacal sign for its element. So this is air. Cardinal air is Libra. Yes? Now, each one of the decans for Libra will be the three planets for the air signs only. Which means what? The first decan will be the same as Libra, which would be which would be Virgo. The second decan would be the Aquarius decan of Libra, which would be Saturn. The third decan would be the Gemini decan of Libra, which would bring in Mercury. So we'd have Venus, Saturn, and Mercury, the three planets in Libra. Does that make sense? If you are a complete follower of the Golden Dawn and the Chaldean system, you would say, no, it does not make sense. To me, it makes absolute sense. So here we have the Two of Swords, which gives us the mutable aspect, the fixed aspect of cardinal air. Fixed aspect being Aquarius, the Aquarius decan of Libra, yeah, the fixed aspect of cardinal air being Libra. So that brings Saturn in to Libra. So we have Saturn in Libra. And what is Saturn in Libra? What kind of characteristics does that bring? That brings in people who are practical, who are attentive to detail, and are fair. Yeah? More than the Venus relationship decan of Libra, this is the fairness, the practicality, the attentiveness to what's going on, the mental clarity, which is perfect and wonderful, I think, for the Two of Swords card, right? There's this decision of which is the most fair, which is the correct choice, what is the practical choice. Now, because this is the second decan, we have a complement. And the complement for this decan is Venus, which is the planet for Libra, in Scorpio. Right? Well, maybe you don't know that, but that is the complement. Venus in Scorpio. What does that bring to us? Well, we have emotional intensity here, which gives the choice a little bit more challenge, right? Emotional intensity, the desire for deep connections. Here in this airspace makes it a little bit difficult. We want this deep connection. We have this emotional intensity, and yet we're trying to be fair. We're trying to be practical. You see the challenge, the difficulty there. Yeah? So that's the maturity, I think, that is called for from the Lenormand Spread that we read earlier in the week. The next card is this Three of Coins card. Again, 1, 2, 3, all the cardinal sign. We'll get to that in just a moment. But what is the Three of Coins? Do you see the three discs there in the upper half of the card? They remind me of a slice of a tree, kind of, although I'm sure that's not what it's supposed to be. But they do make me think of And no, and okay, so you probably think I'm crazy, and I think I understand why you think I'm crazy, because if you see a slice of a tree, you'd see rings and things like that, but that's still what I see when I see this. I see a slice of a tree. Anyways, but we've got these three very woody looking, because it's the color, I guess, very woody looking discs up in the air. And what is the three of coins? It's teamwork, it's collaboration, and learning together with other people, because the earth sign is also a learning kind of sign. It's not the questioning sign. I'm sorry, not signs. The earth element is the learning element. It's not the questioning element of air, but it's the learning, the study of things and stuff, right? It could be recognition. It could be fraternity. It's not the emotional fraternity, but rather the doing of stuff together kind of fraternity. Yes? So that's the challenge. The challenge is to collaborate, to work together, to do stuff together, maybe to learn together. And zodiacally, what do we get? We get that the cardinal earth sign is Capricorn, right? And Capricorn is Saturn. So we've got Saturn at play somehow in this card, and yet it's the third decan of Saturn. I'm sorry, the third decan of Capricorn, which is not Saturn, but rather, how do we go? We go Capricorn, the second decan would be Taurus, the third decan would be Virgo. Virgo's planet is Mercury. So we have Mercury in Capricorn. Yes? What does that mean? So that means we have the mutable aspect of cardinal Earth in the challenge of the spread. Now the desire to go forward and clean up and move on to what's next, right? We want to start off the new thing, but we also want to clean up and move on. And maybe talk about it because it's Mercury, right? So that's that communication and interaction part of the Three of Coins, the communication of Mercury. Also the desire for speed of Mercury. So Mercury Mercury in Capricorn is also practical, grounded, and focused thinking. Yeah, Capricorn grounds and focuses Mercury, which is not a little bit challenging for Mercury, but still he is able to do that here. Because it is the third decan of Capricorn with this card, we have an exaltation. And the exaltation here is of Saturn, because Saturn is domiciled in Capricorn, right? The exaltation of Saturn is where? Guess what? It's Libra. So we've got Saturn in Libra yet again with this card. Also interesting, right? The significance and the challenge have an echo of the same planet and zodiacal association of Saturn in Libra, which is again what? It's the practicality. So the challenge again is heightened practicality, attentiveness to details, being fair and focused while we work together with other people. Because if you remember, in the larger spread we had, that other people around us could be obstacles and challenges, so we need to be practical, grounded, focused, fair when we're working with other people. That's the challenge for us. And that's the call of maturity for us right now. Even though we've got this intense desire for the emotions with with Venus in Scorpio, we're not able to feed our emotional need right now, and so we're called to be mature. Yes? Now the advice is what? It's this Ten of Wands card, which is wonderful. And which is okay. Another reason why I saw sliced trees with the Three of Pentacles card, is because you see the Ten of Wands. What is this Ten of Wands? The Ten of Wands. There is one wand here that you see in the card, right? We also see 9 other trees sliced off, and we see the discs in this wall of logs that have been stacked up here in the background. Do you see that? And you see that there are 9 of them there. Now, if there had been 10 of them there in the shape of the tree of life, that would have been really cool. Just saying. That would have been really cool. But we've got kind of a vague echo of a tree of life-like figure, but it's not the tree of life. There are not 10 discs there in the stack, and they're not in exactly the right positions, right? But still, it would have been interesting. Would have been cool. What is the Ten of Wands? And this does not have a zodiac. Well, it has all of the zodiac of fire, all in this one card. It has Leo, it has Aries, and it has Sagittarius. And I started off with Leo because that's my sun sign. So it has Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, all in this card. And all of that fire, that creativity, the passion. And because it's all built up there in this one card here, what is the Ten of Wands? It is the feeling of burden, right? Of extra responsibility and hard work. Of completion, maybe. Also, because it's the end of the tens, it's the end of the the fire suit. We also have exhaustion included with this card. Because finishing a project can make you feel exhausted. I just finished my last exam for this semester yesterday, and here I am feeling exhausted. So I totally get that, right? So the advice, what is the advice? The advice is the advice to be exhausted, yeah? To feel burdened. I don't think so. I think the advice is to recognize the weight of experience right now, the weight of the activities that we have been doing, and do what we need to be able to move forward, right? Not to get completely weighed down so that we cannot move forward, right? We don't want to get knocked down. We want to find our way through. Maybe releasing some of these burdens would be beneficial to us. Maybe focusing on one task at hand instead of trying to do it all at once would be beneficial to us. Maybe. And we'll get some help, I think, because this is a challenging card for the advice portion of the spread, isn't it? So we've got 3 oracle cards below that will help us unpack the message of these 3 cards above. Are you ready for those? Let me show you those cards once more, and we'll start reading them together. Here they are. I think these cards are beautiful. I love all of Kelly Burton's work. I just do. I do. In fact, I did a month with her Sacred Bee decks. And that's here on the channel if you wanted to go search for that. If you want me to tell you where to find them, if you have trouble finding them, let me know in the comments below, because I really do enjoy working with her decks. They're fabulous. And I enjoy working with this one. I've worked with this one quite often, actually. And so you saw those 3 cards, the Mystic, Augur, and Sage. You saw the very tippy tops of those. And then the cards above them, on top of them. You saw from left to right were the Warrior Within, Event Horizon, and Modern Mythos. So we're going to start off with, first let me show you the position that was right beneath the Two of Swords, which was this mystic card. Yes, the mystic. What is a mystic? The mystic card tells us to engage in magic and alter our actions and strengthen our capacities to influence outcomes. Now, so we do work on ourselves so that we can get the outcomes that we want to have and to engage in our own magic. And how do we do that? We do that by doing this card, which is the warrior within. And you see this looks like a female figure to me. I don't know what you think, but it looks like a female figure to me with a sword above her head, which brings two things to mind. One, the card above was the Two of Swords. She only has one sword, but still a sword. And she also makes me think of the woman on the smith-waite deck with the Two of Swords, with the blindfolded woman holding the two swords like this. Yeah? You remember that? I hope you do. So those are all things that come to mind when I see this card beneath the Two of Swords. And what is this card telling us? Lovely, lovely card. You see the orbs up in the sky. Could be planets, who knows? But there are orbs up in the sky. She's wearing this beautiful, very magician-like cloak to me, which is interesting being on top of the mystic card. And according to Kelly Burton, this card indicates we have the courage to sever the ties to the past, which is interesting. Because remember, in the Lenormand Spread, we've got this ending that just seems to be taking a long, long time, and maybe it's because we haven't done the work of this card yet. Yes? The Two of Swords above reminds us we want to make a decision, and we haven't been able to make a decision, and so this is maybe the advice is, how do we do that? What is the action to take? How do we strengthen our capacities to influence outcomes? We start with having the courage to sever the ties to the past. A very mature action, right? It's also growth and healing that allows us to remember the past with, guess what? With maturity. Yes? So, if we sever the ties that bind us to the past, our growth and our healing will allow us to look at the past maturely. And then we will be able to learn from that, right? We will be able to turn pain and anger from the past into compassion, into freedom. We'll be able to release the magic within us by doing that. Which is, again, perfect for the mystic spot of this spread. So that's what this card is telling us to do. This card, right here. Not cut it out. We'll cut it out, but yeah, cut off the past. Release ourselves. So we can grow, we can evolve, and learn from it. Because since we are tied to it, we haven't been able to look at it clearly because we're still burdened by it. Burdened. Okay, things are starting to click in my head. I don't know if they're starting to click in your heads too, but let's look at the next spot, yeah? The next spot. The space for the next spot is this card, which is the augur, which is what? This card tells us to look for signs, to develop our intuition and observations to understand life's challenges and changes. Which is right below the Three of Coins, which is the working together, right? Teamwork, collaboration, which is the challenge. So that's above this card saying to look for signs, develop our intuition, and observe so that we will be able to understand the challenges that are inherent to this card above. Yes? So not this card, but the card above, which was the three of discs, of coins, of pentacles. They all mean the same thing. They're all earth, right? So, the response is this card, the event horizon. Look at this card. Isn't it beautiful? Do you see the three beings? Yeah, there's the red hand. So the two hands on top are from the Sistine Chapel, right? There's the hand of Adam, which is red. There's the hand of God, the divine, which is the kind of bluish figure. And then you see a figure below that with a hand upraised kind of like this, looking like this. Or maybe it's more like this. Yeah, maybe it's more like this for you. I think that's Apollo. But still we have those three figures. Yeah? Right beneath the three of coins. And there's that, two of them are like, the event horizon is that touching point, and the third figure is below, hand lifted up, not looking up, but lifted up, maybe moving in the direction of joining that interaction. Maybe. And the event horizon card is what? It tells us to consider the significance and permanence of actions before taking them. So remember, the challenge is to work with other people, to collaborate with them, to the fraternity. But this card below, the challenge is that we want to be clear about what we're going to do and the outcomes that we can expect before we actually start doing it. So we've got to think about it. Which could be why the people around us are challenging to us, because maybe they want us to do things and maybe we need to step back. We need to look at what it is that they want us to do and consider what the outcomes might be before we start doing it. We don't want to start doing stuff without careful consideration. Because the actions that we take cannot be taken back. Yeah? So we want to be careful of impulsiveness now. Because we won't know the consequences of it if we are. So don't be impulsive. That's the other thing of this card. Yeah, we want to be considerate of others, sure, but considerate of what we're about to engage with before we engage, before we do. We don't want to act on impulse. We want to be clear. Which echoes that the astrological associations above from the three of coins, of pentacles, with Mercury being in Capricorn and Saturn being in Libra, that practicality and attentiveness and focusing and thinking carefully. Doing those things before we do the collaboration of the three of coins or the three of pentacles. Yes? So what is the challenge? This was the most challenging card. I'm sorry, not the challenge, the advice. What is the advice? This was the most challenging spot of this three-card spread. And you see here, the space holder card is the sage. And what is a sage? The sage is the one who has the stories and the secrets. They explore books and legends and use them as metaphors to understand the current situation. So, we're the smart ones. The sage is the smart one who has the information and explores legends and old information and uses it to deconstruct and to analyze what is happening now. Yes, and the card that covered that sage card is this card, which is modern mythos. Yeah, mythos, mythology, those stories, the legends, but here in the modern world. And here the modern mythos, we have this big peace sign, right? The daisies, the woman's face, which makes me think of the summer of love, a very modern mythos kind of event, Woodstock, yeah? And it's interesting because that peace symbol there in this card reminds me of the discs that were in the Ten of Wands and the discs that were in the Three of Coins, the Three of Pentacles. Not that they look exactly the same, but there's an echo between those images to me. And what is this card telling us? The card is telling us to consider the modern movements that have shaped the world. What modern movements? Well, we could consider Woodstock, the freedom marches of the 1960s as a modern movement. The peace movement, anti-war during the Vietnam War period in the United States as a modern movement. But it's interesting, we've just had a really big protest in the United States. Context, okay, that's my context right now. No kings. Anti-tyranny, anti-authoritarianism, anti-oligarchy demonstrations. Just recently. At the time of this filming, it was yesterday. Yeah, just saying, it was yesterday. Yeah, well, okay, so it was yesterday because I'm a day ahead of them. So at the time that, well, my yesterday, they were just finishing up the protests in the United States. So for me, the news was concurrent with yesterday. So today's the day after that. Now you'll be seeing this later, but still, we have that idea of considering the modern movements that have shaped the world. And I think this standing up in the United States again against monarchy, also known as authoritarianism, also known as oligarchy, and hopefully standing up for peace and unity and social contract, is a modern mythos, right? So, how can this movement override the repetitive incidents and accidents that hurt the collective consciousness? The wars that are going on right now. The move towards authoritarianism. How can our collective joining be a model that will counteract the wounds that are being inflicted by the authoritarians and the war makers, so that we do not become the war makers against the war makers. We don't want to do that. We want to stand up in our power to say no. Yes? Does that make sense? So, but how do we do that? So, that's a big scale. What does that mean for us in our personal lives? Right? So, remember, the Lenormand Spread was to stand up. And I'm just starting to get it now, yeah? This modern mythos card, I think, is telling us to stand up. And standing up in the midst is Ten of Wands burdensome, right? It feels like extra responsibility. It could feel like an expectation of exhaustion, and yet we are called to stand up. And that's the advice, I think, is to stand up in our lives. Not only against the authoritarianism and oligarchy of certain governments, but also within our own lives, to stand up for what is right, for what is true, what is our truth. Not in conflict or in combat, not to cancel anybody, but to stand up in our own power. And to learn from the mythos of doing that action from other movements that have been around us, like, for example, like Woodstock maybe, but more like the March in Selma, the freedom marches of the civil rights era, the marches the marches for peace during the Vietnam era, the marches for democracy in this moment of increased authoritarianism. Those standings up. I think we're called to do that in our personal lives now too. And yeah, it could feel tiring, exhausting even. But still, that's what we're called to do. And that's a mature thing, right? And remember, of course, the center of the spread this week is maturity. And that doesn't mean that we have to do it alone, but it also means that we want to recognize that doing it with others is going to be challenging, and taking on the challenge is not always a bad thing, right? The challenge of working together, collaborating, is a good thing. But we want to do it carefully. Remember, we had below the 3 of coins, the 3 of discs, the 3 of pentacles card, 3 names for the same card, that we want to consider. That doesn't mean we don't want to say no to working together, but we want to consider what we're going to do before we do it, because the actions that we take will not be able to be retracted. So we consider, but it's not saying don't work with other people because it's a challenge. It's saying do work with other people, even though it is a challenge, but think about it first. And stand up. And cut off the past. Yes? Now sever the ties and stand up. I hope this is meaningful for you. It's meaningful for me now, and I'm not really sure. I'm going to need to sit with this a little bit longer to really understand what that means for me personally. But I think it is very meaningful. And yeah, it could be because the collective conscious is in this time of what's going on with demonstrations and wars and authoritarianism. So this could be that we all are called to stand up in the midst of this to break it apart. But it could also be something more personal to us. If that means anything to you, I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Maybe you can help me understand what it means to you, and that might help me understand what it means to me a little bit more clearly. So friends, thank you. Thank you for walking with me through this journey of this spread. And in just a moment, the QR code and the web address for my online tarot shop will appear before your very eyes. Go check out what I have to offer. And now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.